All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. We are here and we are live. It is Monday, October 20th. It has been a pretty wild day, not only across the stock market, but also across two of the major brokerages that all of us use to engage in the stock market, which would be Webull and Hood. I think it's pretty much fixed. Let me know on your side. Webull started working and Hood started working about 20 minutes ago, like really good for me. I haven't played with Legend too much, but on the mobile app, it was good. I think Legend should be okay. S&P 500, 1.1% on the day. Folks, we are less than $2 away from all-time highs. And based on some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, I do think this is a healthy run back to all-time highs if we get there again. 673.95 is that all-time high. We're at 671.81. Robin Hoodie, up 5%, even though it was not working for pretty much the entirety of the day. Palantir, up 2%. Tesla, up 2%. NVIDIA, relatively flat. AMD, 3.36. It almost hit 243. SoFi, what a day for SoFi. 28.64. That's up 8% on the day. It looks like it wants to potentially make a run to 29. We got 12 minutes left to hit 28.93. But even if it closes above 28.50, I think everyone should be pretty happy about SoFi. You got Grab, that's up a little bit on the day. Google up 1.3%. Amazon, for some reason, it was not in my bingo card that Amazon would be hitting 216 from 212 in the morning after this AWS outage, which is still affecting a lot of parts of the internet. But I think around 80% of it has been resolved over the past couple of hours. And so it's starting to get better. But Amazon's up on the day. Meta's up 2%. Salesforce is up 5%. PayPal's up 3%. Apple, 263.55. This stock was at 185 less than 3 months ago. Apple stock has hit an all-time high. This is almost 7% of the S&P 500, and it's only up 8% year to date after hitting these all-time highs. I did not buy SoFi today. No, it kind of ran away from me. So we'll see if we get a little bit of a dip during the week. If not, maybe we'll sell some puts going into earnings, but we'll figure out what to do with SoFi going into the next week. I did do one trade. My Nebius people, you'll be happy. I sold a put on Nebius. Nebius down 4.6%. All the data center plays actually taking a little bit of a hit. Nebius and CoreWeave. Is Iren still down? Wow, CoreWeave down 7%. Iren, are they down? Iren 58.55. All right, so all the data centers took a hit. I still don't know the headline with Oracle. I don't know why this is down 5%. I know you guys in the morning mentioned stuff about gross margins. I couldn't find any meaningful validity to those headlines as a reason for why the stocks to get down, but I guess I'm wrong. There's got to be something out there that's taking it down 5%. And it seems like that's affecting the broader sector around data centers. But I sold a put on Nebius for $98 for this week. And I actually got paid 1.2% of my money. I'm like, I kind of wouldn't mind owning Nebius at 98. Under 100 was my target. And if it gets there and I get paid $1.20, then I'm okay with that. Circle right there, that's up 3% of the day. So that's the only trade I made. But regardless, it does seem like some of these stocks took a little bit of a hit in the data center space. Outside of that data center space, you got pretty much everything that's going green on the day. Except D-Wave. Take a look at Quantum, down 12% on the day. Oklo was down 5%, recovered a little bit. No, never mind. Well, now it's down 3%. So yeah. I mean, technically that is a little bit of a recovery, but still down 3% on the day. 154 to 158. At one point it was at 170. Not horrible to see. And then you had a bunch of the other quantum names like a Rigetti. That's down 8% on the day. SMR in the nuclear space, that's down 0.25%. Nano Nuclear, that was also down 4%. I think this is very, very, very healthy to see. And the reason this is very healthy to see, and I was talking about this in the morning, I really, really do believe in this. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in this idea just based on, I guess, how I'm thinking of this bull market continuing and kind of the PTSD I have from 2021. But with Trump de-escalating with China, with rates coming down, and with earnings being strong, and hopefully that continuing throughout the next couple of weeks, the worst thing we could imagine is if all these frothy names that have zero revenue, zero earnings, quite frankly, they have hyped up narratives that don't actually manifest in reality, seeing them get back to all-time highs with the S&P 500, not a good thing. I think that would be a clown market. I think that would be excess liquidity. I'm not saying every valuation is cheap right now, but I am saying that a random stock that says we're a quantum nuclear mechanistic program to change society pumping 150%, like that is not what we want to see. And so quality companies like Apple and AMD getting all-time highs today, that's bullish. The 10-year below 4%, that's bullish. The S&P 500, $2 away from all-time highs, that's bullish. And seeing some of these quantum names, these nuclear names down, again, they're not horrible companies. It's not a shot at those companies. It's just, even if they were to fall 30%, they would all be up 1 to 2x for the year. So, you've got another 10, 20% down to go, and they would still be creating phenomenal returns for shareholders that bet early on them. But that momentum would die out. And I think that's healthy for some of that momentum to rotate into the broader market. Now, Beyond Meat, I can't defend. I don't know what the hell is happening with Beyond Meat today. This makes the clown market thesis kind of come back to life. 125% up on the day. I think these guys were supposed to go bankrupt, and maybe they announced something today that is denying their bankruptcy or is flipping the direction of that. If anyone has the headline, let me know, but I don't really see why Beyond Meat is up 120% today. Squeezing, yeah, I guess squeezing to an extent, but that could be happening as well. Let me know what people did. We got a bunch of other headlines that we'll get into, but ultimately, dude, I think this was a really good day for the markets. I did not expect to be this green, but the China de-escalation stuff from yesterday was very important. And I think that de-escalation continuing to take place is setting up a really strong potential run going to earnings. Webull right there up 4% on the day as well. Also setting up a good negotiation for Xi and Trump to get into over the next week. So the fact that we're getting this type of momentum, now maybe it's a little bit of a bull trap and it's getting a little too excited, although I do think the narrative is on the side of the bulls right here, especially with this China de-escalation rhetoric that's been coming from both sides over the past 48 hours. Wouldn't surprise me if, we give back a little bit of this over the next few days. But if we can keep this going, 673 is going to happen over the next coming days, and that'd be very, very nice to also see. A lot of the earnings are going to be happening over the next week, but we do have Netflix and Amazon, or Netflix and Tesla, and we're going to see how that ends up playing out. Where's the rare earth companies? All of them, well, some of them are down, some of them are up on the day. USAR is up 14%, MP is up 3%, CRML's down 5%, TMQ is down 5%. Now, the Bitcoin miners turned data centers a little bit of a mixed bag. IREN's down 2%, but CleanSpark, it was up almost 15%. Now it's up 4%. They associated, or they made someone a new senior VP of data centers, Jeffrey Thomas, which is super bullish for them. Bitfarms basically flat on the day. Marathon up 7%. Again, in IREN, I don't think it's bearish that it's down 2%. I think it's healthy. IREN has had a massive run. For IREN to consolidate right here, it seems pretty normal to me, which would not be too crazy. Riot is up 10% of the day, and then Galaxy is up 5% as well. Now, gold in the morning, gold was down just a little bit. That lasted for a little bit. Gold right here is $15 away from breaking 4,400. I don't know what to tell you guys. We talked about it a lot last night. We talked about it this morning with the central reserves, central bank reserves across the entire world having 20% of their global reserves inside of gold. This is the chart that we looked at this morning. I don't know, dude. It's one of those trades that's becoming, I don't want to say it's becoming a bubble, but it is the perception of it is that it is becoming euphoric. A run to 5,000, I think, would truly make it more euphoric, especially if we don't have a reason for why it's happening. I hesitate to say it's a short because it's freaking gold, and do you really want to short gold? I don't know if that's the best idea. Is it a buy right now? Again, I'm not a commodities expert, but something having a run like that, and not just some random stock, but we're talking about freaking gold having a run like that. It is very, very hard to be super optimistic to buy it here. The risk reward doesn't feel like it's that aggressive, but nonetheless, you got gold getting some momentum. Thoughts on the Australia rare earth deal? Okay, so let's transition to that. So I didn't get every highlight of what Trump said with the Australian Prime Minister, but they did meet today, and it looks like it was a relatively bullish conversation in terms of what they did with rare earth minerals. Here is the agreement that they signed today.
And then we'll take some questions. Some good ones, I think. Okay.
Don't have the specifics on the deal, but it is good that Australia and the United States are collaborating on rare earth minerals. This is also happening with Ukraine. So the more that we can get that into the system, the more potential we have to avoid dealing with from China. And then Trump, here was his answer to a question on China.
I think China's been very respectful of us. They're paying tremendous amounts of money to us as in the form of tariffs. As you know, they're paying 55%. They never were paying anything over years and years and years. But they were like anybody else. A lot of countries took advantage of the U.S. They're not taking advantage anymore. No, China's paying 55% and a potential 155% come November 1st unless we make a deal. And I'm meeting with President Xi. We have a very good relationship. We're going to be meeting in South Korea in a couple of weeks, and we'll see what we can do. We have a very good relationship with China, but it's been probably a little bit like your relationship with China. They try and take advantage, but most countries do. I mean, I can say the European Union took advantage, but not anymore. We worked out a very fair trade deal. Japan, we worked out a very fair deal. South Korea, where I'll be meeting President Xi, we worked out a very fair deal. And I expect we'll probably work out a very fair deal with President Xi of China. So most of you will be with us. It's going to be very exciting. And I think we're going to work out something that's good for both countries.
I mean, dude, is that not, like, that is a full 180 from 2 weeks ago, where he's forget 2 weeks ago, from 3 days ago, when he was threatening that we're going to not buy their cooking oil. He's saying that China's been friendly. They've been very respectful. They've been paying tariffs. He is ready to meet Xi in 2 weeks in South Korea. I mean, I think that really is one of the themes, at least of today, potentially of this week, for why the S&P is getting close to all-time highs. You're just not seeing this like aggressive hostility and escalation of rhetoric from Besant, Vance, Lutnick, Trump, or from the Chinese side, which I think is very bullish. And that is nice to see. So as a result, it seems like, the Trump-China situation is not going to be that bad. And if you have that going into a good earnings, I think it sets up a potential run going into Q3. Amazon right there up 1.67% of the day. Meta 732, finally breaking up from that 730s. And then SoFi looks like it's going to end the day above 28.50, which is very nice to see. Hopefully making that run for 30 going into the end of the week. Spot gold rises to another record at 43.80, 3.2% on the day. Let me know if anyone is buying gold. Silver, by the way, and we're going to get into a bunch of these headlines, but silver, there was a place in India that for the first time ever, India's largest metal refinery just ran out of silver. That was a headline that came out 2 hours ago. I mean, people are ready to buy silver. They're ready to buy gold, and you are seeing it in the data, and you're obviously seeing it in the price action. It's just, I don't know if we can meaningfully explain why people are that excited. It's either massive inflation is coming or there's massive geopolitical problems. I mean, you're not seeing either of those manifest as easily right now, but still, commodities are continuing to make a run. Yeah, look at Andy. Bought some gold last week at Costco. See, everyone's buying it. Everyone is freaking buying gold and silver. All right, there we go. Monday, October 20th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is 4 p.m. It's been a wild day, close to all-time highs, but the stock market is now closed. All right, we're done on the day. What a wild day it has been. By the way, Robinhood didn't start working for me until like 40 minutes ago. So even after the market opened, while I was on the way to go get some steaks with our friend Steve, which, by the way, I think this is the rarest steak I've had in my life. We went to Uncle Jack's on 34th. I asked for medium. That's not medium, bro. It was a great steak, and I ate it, and I loved it. But that's not medium, bro. Like, don't tell me that is medium rare 1,000%. That is not medium. But it was a good steak. But Robinhood, I couldn't even check prices while we were at the restaurant because it wasn't working. There's Mr. Milkman right there eating his fillet. So that was not medium, right? I asked for medium, and Steve was like, well, "That's not medium." I was like, "All right, here we go. Let's see what it looks like." But it tasted good. Amit became a man. Yes, I became a man today. I became a man. It looks raw, right? It looked raw to me, but when I ate it, I was like, "Oh, that's not too bad. It's okay." So maybe I am a medium rare guy. All right, S&P 500 ends up 1% of the day, 671.18. Not too bad to get the 670 close, and not just 670, 671. I think that's very nice to see. SoFi up 8% of the day, 28.65. AMD 3%. First 240 close ever. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is the first 240 close ever for AMD. Tesla 447, Pouncer 181, Robinhood 136, Rocklab I think 67, 67.50. Not too bad. ASTS, that one was 83.64, basically flat on the day. Duolingo down 3%. They got a couple analyst upgrades. still the stock got hit. TFC up 2% today. Disney was up 1%. GameStop, Ryan Cohen did an interview. I did not listen to it yet. We'll try to get some tidbits and some headlines from that interview, but that stock was up about 1% of the day. Eli Lilly was up 0.21%. The Hims CEO tweeted, Hims was up 2.8%, that they invested in Grail. This stock was up 17% on the day. I don't know much about this company. Final version, thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, Grail is early cancer detection. Hims took a stake today. Last week, Samsung announced the partnership, and the results are like no other in the market. It's worth a look. I will look into it. I will see. Well, we've got $3.3 billion company, but Hims did make an investment in that today. And so I think that's why that stock also got a bit of a move. Intel was up 3% on the day. Iran down 2%. I think that's relatively healthy for some of the Bitcoin miners. VIX was down 11%. If you went short VIX in the morning, that one worked out, or even if you bought some puts on it. Lyft right there up 2.8%. IWM, small caps, great day. Small caps really outperforming the broader S&P 500, which is nice to see for the first time in a couple of years. Cisco, $70 right there. That's up 1%. JD was up 2%. Delta was up 3.6%. United Airlines had one of their best earnings ever. That stock up another 2% on the day as well. So not too bad. Not too bad at all across the entire market. And I think overall, a pretty healthy day. Wes says, can we please get the S&P out of the 670s? My kids have ruined anything with 6 and 7 in it for me. Yeah, dude, whenever I say it, a bunch of you guys like spam it in the chat, which is, you would think it's like a TikTok thing, but no, it's not. Apparently it's become universal at this point. BM&R, how did we end on the day? 53.65. Tom Lee bought 203,000 ETH over the past week, which I think is pretty bullish in terms of just their ability to keep raising capital and continue to buy the asset class. And then Oscar announced a partnership with OpenAI today. The stock really should have been up 400% once you announced that you're working with OpenAI. The stock was only up 4%. So Oscar got the short end of the stick right there. But they did indeed announce Oswell, Oscar's new health AI agent powered by OpenAI. So you got that had somewhat of a move today. All right, so there you go. Let's get into some headlines as we get into the market close. Again, let me know if you bought the dip today, if you sold any puts, sold any calls, took advantage of it. I mean, most people, if you're on Robinhood, some of you guys got access to your account, but honestly, most people did not get access until like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I don't think I got access until 3 o'clock, to be honest. So it definitely hasn't been an easy day to navigate trades. Webull, for some people, I was saying, is still pretty down and not working. I think the other main headline today outside of the China stuff is just how unbelievably incredible AWS is in terms of the fact that the entire internet, or a decent chunk of the internet, runs on Amazon, Google, Microsoft as well. I mean, it is so hard to be bearish these three companies. Could you imagine if like the servers that AWS was occupying for Northeast didn't just have like a technical issue, but let's say there was like a tornado or something and it completely got wrecked? I mean, dude, like the world would shut down if that happened. Like these are such important and pivotal companies to the fabric of our society. And it's hard to be bearish on them. And I think that's why Amazon stock was up on the day. I mean, even with all the issues that they had, and they're probably gonna have to give a lot of credits to make up for some of this stuff, but 216.53 up 1.6%. I think a lot of people just recognize, look, it's hard to be bearish on something that's this important. And that's why Amazon got some momentum on the day. Eric said, I sold Iran and I bought more Navitas. How did that one end out the day? It was up 20%. Navitas, yeah, 17%, pretty much ended near all-time highs on the day. I don't know if any of you guys had a headline for me on this or if this was just technical outside of the NVIDIA partnership from last week, but really had a move. Oh yeah, the short float was almost 30%. That's probably what potentially kicked it off today, but 17% of the day. Not too bad. Maybe the government will take a stake in Amazon. Maybe. Maybe that's how it's going to play out. AWS says Lambda errors fully recovered, function errors improving further. Okay, so we do have some updates from AWS. Let me actually click on their website and get the exact updates. But it does seem like whatever errors happened weren't necessarily errors from like negligence, but had to do more with the functionality of the servers themselves. How are we not red today with AWS being down? Yeah, I mean, look, I thought Hood would go down as well. I mean, the amount of people talking shit on X today about Hood, I'm just like, goodness gracious. You talk about herd mentality. People just wanted to, I mean, it wasn't even their fault. I'm not even trying to defend them here. Like it was AWS. Like, what do you want them to do? at the end of the day, like, are you really going to shit on a company for something that, quite frankly, was not their fault outside of choosing AWS? I get it. People are allowed to be emotional about it, but you got other people that just like completely went to town on these guys. And I'm like, I don't think it's a sign of high intelligence to be mad at something that is not really their fault. But I can understand emotionally why some people are upset. But still, Hood was up 5% on the day, even with all the pain that they had. And that just showed how resilient the market was in general. And everything was going up today in the midst of all the pain that was going throughout the entire market. So I don't think it's that crazy. Schwab was fine for me. Yeah, look, Schwab was good because I guess, to my understanding, I don't know everything about Schwab's business, but I guess they don't have a lot of their servers running on AWS, which is great for them. But you can't blame a company. This is not some random, cloud company that Hood picked in Indonesia. Like, this is freaking AWS. They do 112 billion in revenue. Like this is like blaming them for a mistake that is not theirs. To me, is just silly. And if SoFi had this issue today, I wouldn't be blaming SoFi either. Oh, it's SoFi's fault for working with AWS. It's like, what are you talking about? It's your fault for picking one of the most trusted clouds on the planet. Like, yes, that's a very intellectually smart way to. And, I had some people say smart money hedge funds cracked AWS's servers just so they could outrun retail today. And that was their strategy to get back at them for missing the April dip. And you see some of these comments and you're like, oh, wow, there's really a disconnect between how some people think about the world, because smart money for sure has zero exposure to AWS. Yes, all these hedge funds, they have no exposure to Amazon Web Services. That makes a ton of sense. That is very, very smart. It's like, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Nonetheless, I didn't expect Hood to go up 5% on the day, but it still was. Palantir was up 2% on the day. SoFi, again, massive day, up 8% as well. And that was getting some momentum, closed at 28.68 on the day. All right, so let's get into some of the headlines, and then we will keep going from there. All right, so first headline, Coinbase option flow, massive. It looks like whales are betting pretty heavy on something happening with Coinbase. A lot of these calls are in the 350 to 450 range for November 2025. So if you are into Coinbase, you've got some of the whales from the option flow perspective deciding to get on the bandwagon. We're seeing this also happen with Tesla. Tesla today continuing to ramp up the 500 and 520 calls for December 19th, 2025. You had about 10 million worth of options that were bought on that 520, 550 call for Tesla. Again, I'm not the most optimistic going into Tesla earnings in terms of the stock price. I really don't think the stock's going to tank. I also don't think there's a massive catalyst for the stock to go higher. Could it go higher for whatever reason? Sure. I'm just not sure exactly what Tesla, the company, will be able to put up in terms of results to get that stock to go higher. So I think there is some anticipation of a run. That's why Tesla was up 2% on the day. Maybe it continues to run tomorrow, but Wednesday we will get those results, and then we're going to see what happens with Tesla as well. What is Apple's market cap? Let's get an update on all the companies. Wow, 3.89 trillion. Okay, so Nvidia's at 4.5, Apple's at 3.8. Apple basically, 3-4% away from 4 trillion, less than that. Microsoft's at 3.841. Google's at 3. Oh, wow, Google closed at 257. That's an all-time high close for Google. All right, so Google 256.50. It hit 257. But did get officially to a $3 trillion market cap as well. Well, 3.1 trillion. So they added 100 billion. And then Amazon still at 2.3 trillion on today. SoFi earnings will be next week. SoFi earnings will be next week on Tuesday, the 28th. We'll be live in the morning. We'll see what those SoFi results look like. Shout out to Mr. Josh in the chat. That is a nice little move on the portfolio, even if he couldn't make any trades today because it's on Robinhood. 760,000 up based on SoFi, going green 8% on the day. I think, Josh, if I'm not wrong, has 200,000 shares of SoFi, 150 to 200,000. So that's a very nice day as you get some of this SoFi momentum. Are there earnings after hours? I don't think there's any earnings today. Are there earnings? Let me check real quick. I felt like there weren't any earnings. 300,000, bro. Wait, Josh, what is your average? When did you buy those extra 100,000 shares? Goodness gracious, bro. That is a lot. Yeah, we have no earnings after hours, at least not any that I see. We had a couple earnings in the morning, but no earnings after hours. Tomorrow is when we're going to get the most earnings. And then we're going to see what happens from there. Bro, I have leaps. All right. Well, that's conviction. That is conviction. That is massive, massive conviction. So there you go. Beyond Meat did get a short squeeze. Zion is today. Is it right now? Really? I thought this was tomorrow. Let me confirm. Zion. Oh, yeah, we do have earnings today. Okay, Zion results. 221 million of net income, 148 a share. Company reported pre-provision net revenue of 14% year over year, net interest margin increase of 25 basis points. Loans contracted at 3% annualized linked quarter rate. A 50 million charge off as well. Wait, what didn't Zion? No, Zion's had earnings last week, guys. Zion's was one of the reasons we had that private credit issue. Yeah, it was Zion's and Western Alliance. Maybe they put out an update after hours, but what I'm looking at right here is the results from last week. Yeah, Zion's was the reason the market got upset on Wednesday. So I don't think, or they announced preliminary results on Thursday, and today we have actual results. Yeah, that might be the reason, which is even crazier if last week the market went down just on preliminary results. Zion Q3 earnings adjusted beat 148 year over year, up 2.8% from 144. Okay, well, Zion's right there, 53.20. That is up 7% on the day. I'll go to their website and see if we can get some more details on what we've got from Zion's. These were the top 20 stocks that were traded in the options market today. Apple was number one. Beyond Meat was number two. A little bit of a weird timeline, but Apple, 1.5 million options. Beyond Meat, 1.4 million. Then you had NVIDIA and Tesla. Then AMD, iBit, Amazon, SoFi, Intel, Oracle, Palantir, Opendoor, Hood, Webull, Marathon, SMCI, Cleveland Cliffs, Strategy, Meta, and Baba. I still don't understand the headline on Beyond Meat outside of the squeeze. I don't know what the catalyst was to create the squeeze, because from my understanding, these guys are supposed to be going bankrupt. But I don't understand. 1 billion shares of volume for Beyond Meat. Yeah, you're right. 1 billion shares of volume. I don't see a single headline on Beyond Meat outside of the fact that people piled in today. Which, yeah, look, it's not healthy to see that. I don't know why that's happening, but it's almost like people left nuclear and quantum and they turned into vegans today. And I guess that's what, from fake meat to fake stock. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess that was the rationale today. But overall, I think it was really good that we didn't see, we really didn't see a ton of the random names that have been running up for the past couple of weeks continue to run. And I think that was the best part about the report today. Q3 for Zion's, do we have it? Yeah, here it is. Looks like this just came out. So 221 million in revenue, 1.48 on EPS, 3.8% net margin. Zion's after hours, this stock is up. I believe we are up 2.64%. Wow. So I guess last week, the charge-off and the provision for credit losses they reported weren't earnings. It was like preliminary results or something that they had to legally disclose before the actual earnings. And today we're getting the actual earnings and you're not seeing that much pain. Yeah. So this is what we got on October 15th. Zion saying they became aware of legal actions initiated by several other banks for faulty loans. That's what caused that kind of regional banking credit concern. But the actual earnings, you're not seeing that. Street's not seeing it either. They beat on the top and the bottom line. So this is actually really good to see. TFC beat, Zion's beat. I mean, a lot of these regional banks. Look at KRE. Back to $60. This thing fell all the way to 52 last week. 2.69% on the day. And that Zion's earnings is probably continuing to help the momentum on KRE. So not too bad from that perspective. Better, this stock was up 30% on the day. I'm not sure why. But this one had a run, maybe a short squeeze, maybe a headline. I didn't see any specific headline, but Better, the financing company for mortgages, that was up 30%. Rocket Mortgage, that stock was up 2.6%, so it didn't get as much of a run. And then Opendoor, that one, again, basically flat on the day at 3%. I did not buy SoFi. I wanted to get it at $26.50. Stock ran away from me, so I don't really know if I'm going to buy it before earnings now. I thought I would get it at $26.50, $27, but it's up 8%. Maybe we'll just sell some puts going into earnings. I mean, I really don't want to buy at these levels. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a game time decision. If it's kind of hovering around here, maybe we don't buy 500 shares. Maybe we buy a couple hundred and we sell some puts instead. But we got to see. I mean, we got a long week. We might get some dips throughout the week, and then we'll see how we operate. Palantir right there up 2%. Then Tesla, that's up 1.6% as well. On this day, Zillow was also up 2.3. So you saw a lot of these real estate plays, even with that 10-year continuing to come down. Nice. Look at that 10-year closed below 4. I think this is the first close below 4 in a long time, because on Friday it was below 4, but I don't think it closed below 4. And so it's nice to see that you've got the 10-year down and the stock market up. I mean, it's kind of creating a really good scenario. The only other weird part about this is gold that doesn't seem to slow down. AppLovin, this one did not have the best day, continuing to get hit by the broader markets. Look at that, 567 down 5.3% of the day. Some new update on them. AppLovin is under federal and state data privacy probes after short sellers alleged it tracked users, including children, with digital fingerprints and served inappropriate ads. The company put out a statement saying they deny the claims. I think a lot of these claims have been said over and over again on AppLovin, but they are continuing to get attention based on this SEC probe, and that's why that stock is, just getting that narrative hit, and that's why it's down about 5.3% on the day. So that's what we got on AppLovin. All right, some of the other headlines we have as we're getting into this market close. So let's look at some macro stuff. First of all, the CBOE, which controls a lot of the options market, filed a proposal with the SEC today to extend options trading hours, adding to a pre-market session from 7:30 to 9:25 and a short post-market session from 4 to 4:15. This would be super bullish Robinhood, super bullish Webull, super bullish Fidelity, super bullish Schwab if people could now trade options 15 minutes after the market closed and 2 hours before the market opens. I've always thought, I don't understand why options have to be so tightly within a certain area. I mean, if there's liquidity at 7 a.m., you should be able to trade your option versus having to wait until 9:30. So I think this would actually make a lot of sense. The question is just, can we, get it through the SEC? But in this SEC, they're accepting a lot of different proposals. Potentially, we're not even going to get quarterly earnings going into next year based on what the SEC says. So I think it would be pretty bullish if that ends up playing out. Imagine buying leaps during earnings. Yeah, like imagine Tesla reports at 4 o'clock and then freaking the stock is up 10% because they put out really good earnings and you can just buy leaps right away and magnify the returns. Now, you'd have to sell by 4:15 or you'd have to sell in the morning at 7:15 a.m. the next day. But still, it would be relatively bullish. Yeah, 4:30 a.m. options for the West Coast. Exactly. Here's another stat. Retail continues to buy the dip. Individual investors have been net buyers of U.S. stocks in the last 23 of 26 weeks. Last week marked the 7th consecutive weekly purchase and the largest in 5 months. We kind of got this similar data from Bank of America last week about the largest single stock inflow in history. Retail investors have also recorded 24 straight weeks of net purchases in equity options, the longest streak on record in data going back to 2020. There are here's a stat that I didn't tell you guys in the morning. There are over $1 trillion, trillion with a T, in zero DTE options. I mean, I don't know where this money is coming from. I think a lot of this is more hedge funds that are hedging their bets every single day with these zero DTEs. But if a certain chunk of that trillion is retail, then it just goes to show the popularity of these option contracts. All retail has been net buyers of ETFs in 206 of the last 208 trading days so far in 2025, showing that risk appetite, whether it's for ETFs or single stock inflows, is not slowing down. And it is quite incredible to see. The money comes from the money that we made during April. That's fair, but a lot of that money is being then essentially deployed on these zero DTE options, which, look, a lot of it is gambling. A lot of it might also be hedging. A lot of it might be strategic, but I mean, I've never done a zero DTE. I feel like you have to be very, very sophisticated to know exactly how to navigate it. But the fact that there's $1 trillion in it just shows that retail investors and institutional investors do like the product. And it doesn't look like that product is slowing down anytime soon. Now, tariff revenues, that continues to break records. U.S. tariff revenue jumped $22.4 billion year over year in September to a record $29.7 billion. This is the 7th consecutive monthly increase following August $29.5 billion change. So far, year over year, we have hit $195 billion for fiscal year 2025 in tariffs. This is up 500% in custom duties from 2018. I mean, it is showing a real sign that the tariff revenue, which hasn't fully impacted inflation yet, hasn't fully put a strain on the consumer yet. BlackRock's Rick Reeder was on CNBC a while ago. I'll see if I can get the clip of that as well. And he thinks the consumer is in one of the best positions they've been in. And he also thinks that it's hard to fade equities at these levels simply based on the idea that as rates continue to come down and as earnings continue to go higher, I mean, how do you get that upset over what's going on in the broader markets, and how do you stay short on a net basis equities? And tariffs going up and that tariff revenue potentially helping to pay down our debt, if we're not seeing the implications of that meaningfully on the consumer yet, maybe we will, maybe we won't. It's yet to be seen. I think we probably need a year's worth of data to make that conclusion. That's not the worst thing in the world, which is a better argument for the bull case. So that's what we have there. Do you have any thoughts on Path? I would not buy this year because it broke out aggressively, and I'm not sure exactly why it broke out. They had a decent earnings. I don't know if the earnings justified as big of a move as they made. But if you understand the company fundamentally and think it's being re-rated, then maybe it's worth a gamble. I just don't know if robotic processing automation is like the big thing that the street might want to bet on. But you are seeing some people get more excited about that from 11 to 15. That one has made a bit of a move. By the way, we didn't talk about this in the morning, but MicroStrategy bought another 168 Bitcoin. So you got MSTR purchasing about 20 more million of Bitcoin. Salesforce was up 5% of the day. Again, Benioff got some flack over kind of taking back his comments on Trump deploying the National Guard after he originally said they should do it. Market didn't care too much about that. 254 on Salesforce. That's up 4.6% on the day. Google right there up 1.2%. And then Tesla 446.85. That was up about 2% on the day as well. Zion just beat earnings despite a 50 million credit loss by charge. That is super bullish. Yeah, I agree. And look, that's another reason it makes me bullish for SoFi. I mean, you're seeing Zion's get that move right there. It's almost like the regional banking issue had nothing to be scared about, especially if they beat earnings even with that credit charge. But they had to disclose that credit charge from a legal basis. You're just not seeing that much pain in the market based on them reporting those numbers. Let's get some results from Zion's and some coverage. This is what we had here today.
41 estimate. Revenue coming in at $861 million, which is a beat versus the $843.1 million estimate. Net charge-offs were $56 million, most of which were tied to that $50 million charge-off that was disclosed last week, tied to the Cantor Group. And apart from that loss, CEO Harris Simmons saying that charge-offs were, quote, very benign at just $6 million. We are all looking forward to the conference call at 5:30 to hear more about this, guys. And as you said, it looks like the stock is catching a little bit of a bid right now.
Dude, 56 million in charge-offs and 50 million was what they disclosed. I mean, that's an absolute nothing burger. I would not be surprised to see this stock get a lot more momentum on the earnings call when the CEO really calms people down. That's a great quarter for the regionals. And if that continues going into the end of this Q3 earnings, you're not going to get that much concern around private credit. Here's the update on AWS and a little bit more of a summary of what happened today with Amazon as well.
Have now reported problems, and the count is still rising as this AWS outage drags on. Now, the trouble stems from Amazon's Northern Virginia region. That's its oldest and busiest cloud hub, still the default for countless apps and platforms. This is the same data center complex that Amazon has leaned on for years, where many major platforms first set up shop. This hub has seen multiple disruptions over the past 5 years. Now, AWS says it is making progress fixing the internal network failures that triggered all this, and we are starting to see service disruptions come back down. Cyber experts also stressing this is not a hack, but it is another reminder of the risks that come with centralized cloud infrastructure. Despite growing pressure from Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud, AWS still controls more than a third of the global market. Investor sentiment was already shaky heading into earnings, with AWS battling margin compression and a backlog trailing Microsoft and Oracle. This outage does not help. The question now is, does Amazon raise its $118 billion annual CapEx commitment next week to bulk up its data centers, expand compute, and potentially chase more AI demand? Guys?
Mac, I wonder, there's an agentic AI challenge here, it seems to me, right? Because we're talking about AI all the time. That is sitting on top of the cloud. If this were 5-10 years in the future, if you don't have people to answer the phones because the agents are doing it for you or analyze your sales or crunch your numbers, does a cloud outage become a work stoppage for companies? I mean, it seems like the stakes are only getting higher for the economy as we rely more and more on these resources.
I mean, today laid bare the fact that Perplexity doesn't have a robust enough multi-cloud strategy. I'm about to Anthropic to hear whether they've suffered disruption, but we haven't seen reports of that. And that's because they rely on a mix of cloud providers, not just Amazon, but Google Cloud. We also saw OpenAI diversify away from just working with Microsoft Azure, their Google Cloud customer as well, to prevent exactly this, John. You can't have reliance on one single provider anymore.
So in light of that, Mac, who are the potential winners, if there are some, coming off of this event?
I mean, think about Oracle's investor day last week. Their backlog number, I'm looking at a chart of this, it's up to $455 billion. Azure's $368 billion. You know where Amazon is? It's shy of $200 billion. And that's a big concern here. Yes, they are still the firm leader in the cloud wars, but their growth numbers year over year are coming down. We're seeing those.
And that's why the stock has been hit. I mean, look, it's really this simple for Amazon. If they can get that RPO, remaining performance obligations, or their backlog to be similar to Oracle, which again, it's not even revenue, but Oracle got that juicy OpenAI $300 billion contract, and then their RPO went from $150 billion to $450 billion. Boom, the stock goes up $200 billion in market cap. Amazon's probably not getting OpenAI. I mean, they probably would have got them by now if they were in the running for like a meaningful part of their workload. But if they can get some acceleration, they don't need $500 billion in backlog. They need like another 10, 20, 30 billion to get the street to see the potential of their ability to expand AWS, even at the scale that they're operating at. That would get the stock to re-rate. If that doesn't happen on earnings, as much as I like Amazon, as much as I think it's a buy the dip and hold for the next 10 years, this stock's going below 200. I mean, and I think everyone should be prepared for that. You should not expect a re-rating on Amazon on earnings if AWS does not accelerate, because they're not going to get margin from the commerce business. Maybe advertising aids a little bit on their operating income, but AWS is the story right here. And they've either got to make it more efficient, aka better than 36% operating margins, or they've got to increase the volume. And right now, the street's been very receptive to seeing the increase of volume because it shows that AI companies are choosing to work with certain cloud providers like an Oracle, Google, Microsoft. If Amazon can't do that, I don't think the stock has a good earnings, just to be quite frank. If they do, I think it's headed closer to 250. So I think that's the gamble that you have to take on Amazon if you are in the name. After today, I don't know how they can scale the AWS business. I think today is going to be one of those things where they have to apologize to some of their trusted customers, but it's not a death blow for Amazon. Just like CrowdStrike's July incident in 2024 wasn't a death blow for CrowdStrike either. I mean, CrowdStrike took a $60 million hit in credits, and that was it. You had people saying this company was bankrupt, it was over, it was done. And the only regret I have is I didn't buy more. I bought at 330 and then I bought again at 250. Didn't hold on to it for the long term, but like it was a nothing burger. I mean, it was a something burger, but it was a nothing burger in the context of the company being dead, because CrowdStrike is the leader in endpoint security. Amazon is one of 3 companies that runs the entire internet, and that was pretty evident today. And I don't think it's that easy for a company to be like, oh yeah, we're just going to leave Amazon tomorrow and go to Microsoft. Like, it's not that simple. And so as a result, I don't think this one gets hit as bad. Yeah, a lot of them are just way too deep into this infrastructure of OS. Okay, let's see some of the other headlines that we've got going on here. AMD again closed at 240. Twitch is horrible. I agree. Look, Amazon needs to get rid of Twitch. Twitch is just a money pit. I don't know what they're doing with Twitch. They've had it for like 10 years and they haven't been able to do anything with it. So I wouldn't mind them selling that off, but maybe if they can monetize it better, that would be more bullish for them. CoreWeave. So I was talking to Steve about CoreWeave today. He's started to do a lot more due diligence and is getting way more bullish on the product. Here's the punchline on CoreWeave: 30 billion in backlogs, 3 billion in revenues. It's hard to be super bearish, dude. Like maybe the valuation isn't the most attractive, but 30 billion in backlog, 3 billion in sales, and not to mention NVIDIA has a $6.3 billion put option where they will buy $6 billion worth of unused GPUs just in case CoreWeave can't find a customer. That's how confident NVIDIA is in the fact that CoreWeave will find a customer. I haven't done a lot of fundamental due diligence on CoreWeave, but that would be the reason to get excited about it. And, you know, that's similar to what the Nebius bulls get excited about, is that backlog will eventually increase with Nebius as well, as they get more of these hyperscaler deals that CoreWeave isn't able to get with Meta and with OpenAI. For Nebius, it's primarily with Microsoft. Yeah, and CoreWeave is basically 90% of NVIDIA's portfolio. I mean, NVIDIA has a vested interest to make sure CoreWeave doesn't fail. However, they do have a lot of debt. And so that's, you know, those are the sort of nuances you have to navigate with a stock like that. HIM's right there up 2.7%. ASTS basically was flat on the day. That one didn't move too much. MicroStrategy still below 300. You are not seeing the Bitcoin bulls get super excited about MSTR yet. But that one continues to stay in that 300 range. Upstart has short interest of 30%. It was up 9% today. Upstart was the original stock that had some issues last week or 2 weeks ago with the delinquency reports that turned out to not necessarily be correct. So their earnings will be also very important. Yeah, Upstart, wow, 30% shorted. SoFi is at 8%. So that is definitely another one to watch out for as well. When's CoreWeave earnings? I believe it's in 2 weeks. I believe it's in 2 weeks, and then we'll see. We'll see what CoreWeave has to say. Apple. Let's hear some analysis on Apple. This is another analyst named Amit. I don't know if I will eventually look like this guy. I mean, all people lose their hair at one point. Hopefully, it's not until I'm much older. But here is Amit Dariani's perspective on Apple.
So far, yes. I think it's about two things in fairness. The iPhone cycle, iPhone 17 is doing fairly well. And what's interesting is in different countries, there are different things that are resonating. In China, for example, I think the base models are doing much better. In the US, the Pro Max models are doing well. And I think it's a combination of you just have older iPhones. You have this big swath of phones that were purchased in 2020, 2021. The pandemic time, they're just up for upgrades right now. There's a good amount of innovation in these phones. And in the US, at least, the promotions are fairly attractive. So I think there's a bunch of things that are working out in their favor that's giving you better iPhone momentum. At the same time, all the headaches and worries people had on services, be that the DOJ versus Google lawsuit or what could happen with Apple versus Epic, have sort of all gone away. So I think it's almost a perfect storm in a positive manner for Apple stock right now.
So you do.
I think he's right, dude. It's a perfect storm for Apple. iPhone 17 up way better than expected. Everyone's excited about what Apple could potentially do with a real agentic Siri going into 2026. And here's the most important thing. Apple, they don't really pay that much in CapEx, right? Like they don't have massive CapEx investments. They spend a lot of their money on buying back the stock, which continues to lift the share price, but they're not spending it on tons and tons of GPUs. They're just going to partner with a Gemini or with a ChatGPT, let them do all the CapEx spending and just integrate the software into their distribution. And I think that is actually the very exciting thing about Apple. We do have this in the stock draft. Let's take an update on that. Matt is up 48%. I'm at 37. Apple gave us a nice, 32%. Can't be too mad about that. 198 to 262. Steve's up 8%. Tanner's up 21.7. Chris is up 10.4. And then you got Matt right there at 48%. That's a mid in a bear market. That's a mid if Palantir crashes. Oh my gosh, dude. That's a mid if he keeps eating rare steaks. Dude, I'm not tripping, right? This thing is not medium. This thing is not freaking medium. There's a lot of pink in that. It's not medium, bro. That's rare. I think I legit had rare steak today. Anthropic CEO. This guy thinks that they are growing faster than everybody. I think he's right about that. Here's what he had to say as well about Anthropic's growth.
Is that there is going to be an enormous need for compute for all the reasons that that we've laid out, right? The scaling laws suggest that we're going to need more and more compute to train smarter and smarter models, and then as the revenue goes up, we're going to need to serve more. We're going to need to serve more of our models. So when that revenue is not $7 billion but $100 billion or more, And when model training requires millions of chips, we're going to need many gigawatts of power to train the models. So we're trying to secure that power basically wherever we can. And I'm confident in the company's ability to do so. I do get a bit worried when the press focuses too much on the building of the data centers and deals to build data centers. Some of these deals seem a little bit fishy. They seem like there may be double counting. And I also worry again.
Which deals are you talking about?
I mean, that's pretty incredible. That's basically him saying all these data center companies that are, I mean, implicitly he's saying these stocks that are going up based on these hyperscaler deals might not be as legit as they seem. Now, granted, you got to take that with a grain of salt. You don't know what his intentions are or motives are to say this type of stuff. But he's trying to say the foundation models are what matter, not the data center deals. And maybe people are putting too much attention on the data centers themselves.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
Who is double counting? These are all public companies. We're going to want to know who's double counting.
I don't know. I don't know anything more than.
What about the ones who are doing triple counting?
I don't. There might be some of that too.
Oh wow! All right.
I don't know. But look. At the end of the day, all this data center stuff is spending money, right? I think the thing that's most important is making money. And so this is why I focus on, the revenue and the actual work that we're doing with businesses. Anthropic is growing faster than any other company in this space. The revenue is growing faster. And, I think basically if the demand is there, if customers want the money and they're willing to pay you, then you are willing to pay your compute providers and you'll get the compute you need at the end of the day.
He's not wrong, by the way. Anthropic is growing faster. They were doing $1 billion in revenue at the beginning of 2026. That went to $5 billion in July. Now it's $8 billion for the estimate of September of 2025, with an estimate base case of $20 billion for next year, which would be 8 to 20, with a bull case of $26 billion. So that would be more than a 3x in revenue, 300% year-over-year growth. The rumors are OpenAI is doing $20 billion right now. Some people say they're doing $14 billion. So OpenAI is probably going to be in the same ballpark. But Anthropic's going in fact, it's timely we're talking about this. I just got a $20 a month subscription to Claude. I've been using Claude more and more, bro. I mean, it's honestly, I'm not going to lie. I'm liking it. Grok takes too long. It takes too long. I'm starting to get annoyed by it. I'm like, bro, you're taking way too long to give me an answer. Anthropic is quicker. And it's just like, I signed up for Claude last week and I've been starting to use it more. I'm like, dude, this is actually a bit better than Grok. And I pay for Grok because I pay for Twitter Premium. So yeah, it's slow, right? Okay, so it's not just me, right? Like Grok is starting to get slow. And I'm like, this is such a first world problem, 100%. But I'm like, bro, like if I'm paying $50 a month, I want the answers immediately. This shit is thinking for hours. I didn't ask you that hard of a question. Like, give me the answer. I thought you're connected to Twitter. Shouldn't you have all the data? And then Anthropic's like instant. So, oh yeah, I'm this is music to Tanner's ears. Tanner absolutely hates Grok, and he posted a tweet of how crappy Grok has been for him. And dude, I have no desire to hate on Grok. I mean, I literally pay for Twitter Premium. I want it to work, but it's just kind of been sucking for me. And so Tanner said, Grok is so unbelievably bad, it's mind-blowing. It doesn't even know who I am. It doesn't source any context from our previous conversations. It can't even make a funny image to reply to comments. I paid for Super Grok with a full annual subscription and find myself on the free versions of Gemini and ChatGPT more. And I am on here listening to Elon say AGI is close. Figure out the memes first. Tanner said, can you make an image of Anthony Noto, the CEO of SoFi, saying, why do you need other bank accounts? Yeah, this is not even close. This is not even close, bro. And look, Elon said that there is a 10% chance Grok 5 will achieve AGI. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Grok 5 will, but Grok 4 definitely is not getting it yet. So I moved on, and it goes to show the fragility of consumers, right? How quick they are to switch. Like, and I was actually wrong about this assumption. I said, I think a couple months ago that ChatGPT's first mover advantage would make it very hard for freaking Gemini to compete. And now I'm like, because like they have all the users, but it's like, wait a second, if Gemini's better, then people will switch. People won't care, dude. As long as it works, people are ready to use something else. And I'm using Claude more now than Grok because it works better. And so I guess maybe I don't think I'm as accurate on this whole first mover advantage stuff versus quality of usage. Then Tanner said, what do I do for a living? Based on your X profile, Lori, you work as a pro bono attorney, helping folks who can't afford legal representation, which sounds like a noble gig. Tanner said, my X profile is future investing. Tanner, I didn't know you were a pro bono attorney, but. And this is really sad on Grok because it literally has access to your profile. And if it can't read your profile, like what are we talking about? AGI. I mean, if it cannot read who you are connected to your, I mean, ChatGPT doesn't have access to your Twitter profile like that. So I don't know, not the best look for Grok. But nonetheless, a lot of these LLMs continue to grow. One thing we haven't heard from Elon, I'll do a poll in the chat for which LLM people use, is the growth rate on Grok. We've heard ChatGPTs from a lot of different rumors. We've heard Anthropic's just now. We have not really heard Grok's growth rate. And Elon hasn't disclosed it. And maybe because it's not as good as people think. And if it's not, then the question is, you know, how does XAI meaningfully compete to get people away from the other platforms? We know Gemini's at 450 monthly, and that was 90 days ago. That might, you know, turn into 600 to 700 going into this Q3 report. Which LLM do you use daily? We have GPT, we have Grok, we have Claude, and then what's the other one? Llama, I guess, or other. We'll say other. GPT, Grok, Claude. Oh no, Gemini. It's Gemini. Okay, which one of those do people use? I'm seeing some decent amount of Perplexities, bro. You know, Perplexities Comet, I used it for a task the other day, and it actually really did a good job. Like, I logged onto Robinhood on Perplexities Comet browser, and I told the agent to, like, calculate something for me based on the page I was on, and it did a really good job. And I was like, oh, that was actually kind of, that's a use case. Because there's always questions I have about certain positions I'm in on Robinhood, but it's a lot of adding and subtracting. And I'm like, dude, can I just like ask some, like Robinhood should come out with an LLM where you can ask it questions about your positions. Be like, hey, Robinhood, I'm in these 7 covered calls. I'm curious about XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Like that should be so intuitive. And maybe with their Cortex product, we're going to see that in next year. But I did it via Perplexity and it was pretty damn good. So, you know, we're going to have to see how all these eventually evolve long term. Results on this poll, let me see. Wow, 43% say ChatGPT. 32% say Gemini. Only 5% say Claude. Google Pro can do the same thing. Yes, I don't pay for Google Pro. I've never tried it. I would be open to definitely trying it, especially because I use Google all day. But I would imagine they can do things that are very. Someone invited me to Perplexity, so I got it for free. That's why I used it. But overall, we are seeing a lot more potential innovation in the space as this stuff tends to ramp up. So that's what we got there. Google Pro is free for 1 year for students. Dude, I think all of these LLMs should just give as much of their usage as they can for free. It would be so smart. I remember I got Spotify for like $5 a year back when I was in college. It was a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, $5 a month. It's like $5 a month in college is affordable. And then they had me hooked, but then I left to YouTube Music when YouTube Premium offered the bundle. But like, it's so easy to get college kids to use something if you make it free. And then they kind of just stay for a long time. And college kids, you know, have a lot of use cases in regards to using these data centers as well. Did you get Claude to support the Amazon investment? No, I just started using it. I literally logged on last week and I was like, because Grok was being stupid. I don't pay for GPT. And so I was like, let me ask Claude some questions. I've heard about it. I hear Dario all the time talk about how fast they're going. My cousin, she works at a tech company. She can't stop talking about it. So I was like, let me try it out. And then I'm like, bro, this is way better than what I've been using in Grok. And it's way faster. And so I'm like, all right, this is going to be a new daily driver. And now I pay for it. And so the question just becomes, how much can that conversion continue to get more and more people to be excited about the service? All right. What other headlines do we have on the day? We talked about the Hassett comments in the morning about the shutdown potentially coming to an end. Oh, wow. Polymarket has unveiled 15-minute increment crypto betting powered by Chainlink. 15-minute Polymarks. Bro, this is the most degenerate thing I've ever seen. You can bet within 15 minutes the price of Bitcoin up or down. This came out 3 hours ago. I feel like this is a way bigger announcement than we're giving it credit for. 15-minute incremental poly markets. Yeah, you might as well flip a coin, bro. That is crazy. Okay, I guess I imagine Kalshi will be next. I can't play the audio. They're playing a Drake song. It's gonna get the copyright. But okay, so we have 15-minute poly markets. That's a new headline to me. I'm just seeing that right now. This headline I talked about on the Future Show yesterday. I didn't share on the Market Open, but for those that missed it, Chamath, Donald Trump Jr., and Lauren Ingram are launching a new SPAC. That is an accurate headline. Lauren Ingram hosts Fox News, The Ingram Angle. Don Jr. is the president's son, and Chamath is the SPAC king. The freaking SPAC is called Columbia Acquisition Corp, and it's registered in none other than the Cayman Islands. Again, not the best look for those claiming that it's not a top, but this is some of the stuff we've got going on. I have rationalized it the same way I've talked about over the past couple of weeks. If this thing goes to 10 billion and then goes to zero, who cares? Just like an Oklo, just like one of these quantum stocks, like it's just not affecting the broader S&P 500. But it does mean there's a lot more liquidity in the system for these guys to be deciding to launch a SPAC. And that's what you've got going on right here. So there you go. We have no idea what the ticker is going to be. We have no idea what the company is going to be. It was announced October 17th. The 8K came out. So literally a couple days ago. And, we'll see if it turns into something that retail would buy. I tried Command F-ing Casino on the SEC filing because Chamath's other SPAC says you can't cry in the casino. There was no warning about not crying in the casino. So, maybe this will end up becoming a bit more of a casino when it ends up coming out. Some other updates from the Trump meeting. We talked about the China stuff. Here is what Trump had to say about Ukraine in today's meeting.
Just a few weeks ago at UNGA, you said that Ukraine could possibly win the war and
well, they could. They could still win it. I don't think they will, but they could still win it. I never said they would win it. I said they could win. Anything can happen. War is a very strange thing. A lot of bad things happen. A lot of good things happen. If you look at the Middle East, I would say prior to us hitting Iran so hard, we could have never made that deal because you would have had a dark cloud over the Middle East when we took out their nuclear capability, which was one of the great military maneuvers of all time. It was flawless. You saw that. Yeah. Those magnificent B-2s. That was a flawless move that was done by some very talented people, headed up by Pete and everybody else, and our great generals, and General in particular, Raisin Kane. We did a great job. And when that happened, everything was different, and we were able to get a deal.
Just a few weeks ago at UNGA, you said that.
So, look, Trump is pretty bullish that this war can come to an end with Ukraine and Russia. We're going to see how this ends up playing out, but it is nice to see that there is a little bit more peace in the Middle East, and if they can get that done across the rest of the world, the markets definitely would be happy to have a little bit more of a geopolitically stable environment going into the end of the year. Now, GSIT, we looked at this in the morning. These guys published a white paper. They've been public since 2007. Stock was up 155%. Let me know if anyone made any money on this name today. They published a white paper saying that they can create better GPUs that use less energy than the current ones on the market. And that's what took the stock up 155% in a day, added about $300 million of market cap. It was a Cornell study that they did. And yeah, as a result, this one went green. We're going to see tomorrow if this one is actually going to continue green. I've never heard of GSI Technology. It's a random small cap. This is their website. I don't really know if these are the guys to take down NVIDIA. I can publish a paper too. Yeah, dude. We can go to freaking Grok and say, hey, build me a white paper about a better AI system that can use less energy. I mean, dude, I'm not even trying to deny the legitimacy of their white paper. I'm just like, really? The stock's going to go up 200% in a day? Not for revenue, not for earnings, not for a deal, not for any level of paradigm shift with the cloud computers or with the hyperscalers, but because of freaking a paper that they put out. And so, I don't know. That's what you got from there. Now, we did have, speaking of new forms of computing, you did have a prominent CEO talk about quantum, which, although the stocks have been running like crazy, the underlying technology might be more real than what a lot of people think. And it might be with Google. Here is Sundar last week saying that quantum in the eyes of Google is becoming more real.
I spent, for maybe 2 weeks ago now, Monday I'd gone to Santa Barbara in our quantum lab. I met with the team. Again, it's another journey. We've been at it for more than 10 years. I think we have the leading quantum lab in the world. I finished spending my day. I left on Monday, and Tuesday morning I found our chief scientist there won the Nobel Prize for physics this year, right? And this is the second year in a row. You mentioned Demis and John Jumper last year. But we believe in that kind of deep fundamental R&D, right? And with a view of translating that into real products. That same quantum computing team, no different from our TPU teams, plans to have commercially available, real, at-scale quantum computers in a few years. And I think they will get there, right? So when you talk about now 10 years ahead, we are building this digital intelligence layer, not just us.
So 10 years quantum is real, is your point?
At least. I for sure think so. I'm very, very bullish and confident on it.
There you go. Sundar endorsing in 10 years, quantum is real. Now, does that mean all these quantum stocks deserve to get a 18,000 times price to sales premium before it manifests itself? Maybe. Or maybe Google's the one that ends up figuring it out and all these other quantum stocks go to zero. I mean, you've got to really dive into the nuances of this. But you do have one of the CEOs of the fourth largest company on the planet saying that he thinks quantum is real.
I've seen that.
That's going to put at odds cryptography as we know it today. Are cryptocurrencies going to be at risk with quantum computing that can break any code, available from a Google or other vendors?
I think in a 3 to 5 year thing, we will have that moment where, from a cryptographic standpoint, we have to adapt to quantum for sure.
Yeah.
But I think we will.
Will that create a moment of vulnerability, do you think, for all of these currencies and all of this stuff?
It will, but I think as a society, it'll also create an opportunity for people to come and provide new solutions.
If there is a trust gap at that moment, that could be very serious. So it's something that everyone needs to be mindful about.
Mindful of, and I think there's so much at stake. I think we will collectively work together. But on the positive side, if you ask me 10 years from, look, we are definitely going to have digital superintelligence as a collaborator for all of us. That is going to be a reality.
What does that mean? That has been a phrase that everyone is starting to use, but few have been able to define it. Digital superintelligence. And is that kind of where we're going then? It's 10 years, it's digital superintelligence, it's quantum computing. Like we were talking about AGI, that term seems to be dropped. That was this concept that the software is so smart, it's just writing itself, and the data centers are being built by robots, and it's just all going in the book that Larry talks about, we are Legion, we are Bob, that we're all off in a rocket ship collectively waking up in a robot. Is that what we're talking about? No, because we were talking about that yesterday with Brett, and it was like, whoa, it was a trip.
Look, the one thing, we are so good at adapting. I think we constantly underestimate, right? Obviously, 10 years ago, we used to obsessively talk about Turing tests, like we kind of moved past it. The fact that our self-driving cars driving in San Francisco, and you're right, they're driving around, it's kind of like people are, we just kind of like, I'm not sure my kids are impressed by that, right? So it's just, like I am like blown away every time I get in one of those cars because I've, seen the progress.
How many people have been in a Waymo? Raise your hand.
So look, you got Sundar, who's pretty bullish over the next 10 years on overall technology. And obviously Sundar is also, pumping his book right here because he is building quantum commercial applications via Google. So of course he's going to be bullish on the concept. I don't know a lot about quantum. The only use case that I hear people talk about is that it can hack your Bitcoin. I have no idea if it can actually hack your Bitcoin. I kind of don't care if it can hack your Bitcoin. Like, I mean, if it hacks the okay, then Bitcoin is a dud. It's whatever. Like, I don't care that much about it. If it doesn't, then cool, Bitcoin's fine. So now if you're a Bitcoin maxi, you probably are very, very passionate about if it can hack your Bitcoin or not. So I guess it's an important conversation. I don't care that much about it, but nonetheless, even Sundar didn't definitively say it's not going to happen. Sundar said, we're going to have to learn how to adapt to a world with cryptography dealing with quantum. Now, Shkreli is convinced that quantum is going to hack Bitcoin one day. I mean, he says one of his life's mission is to use quantum computers to hack Bitcoin, which is why he's so bearish to quantum stocks, because he's like, the only real use case is cryptography, not all this other stuff that the bulls in the quantum names would preach as like the next generation of beating NVIDIA GPUs. Maybe he's wrong about that, as Sundar is saying, yeah, quantum computing is coming. Maybe it's going to be more important than NVIDIA. Maybe it's a massive bear case for NVIDIA, and that I do care about because I do own a lot of NVIDIA. So, I mean, I do think quantum requires attention to understand. I just don't know if there's any meaningful commercial application over the next at least 5 years. Enough that could hack your Bitcoin, or enough that could say NVIDIA GPUs are inferior compared to quantum computers. And I guess over time, we're going to see how this plays out. Kirk says, I agree with Steve that the big guys will figure quantum up and these pure play quantum stocks are a huge bubble. Yeah, I mean, look, if that is the case, it's not just going to be Google. It's going to be IBM, Microsoft. All of big tech is going to find a way to get exposure to this. Maybe they have to buy out some of those smaller firms, or maybe those smaller firms have zero value to a Google that has their own quantum lab. So why would they buy out D-Wave or Rigetti or IONQ? Like, I mean, maybe, they would have no meaningful reason to do it. And then those stocks potentially go to zero. But we're going to have to see. If quantum can hack your Bitcoin, it can easily hack your 4-digit bank code. Yeah, so I mean, like that's another sort of retort that a lot of the Bitcoin maxis will give, which is like, if quantum computers are so strong enough to hack cryptography, why wouldn't they be able to hack something that's quote unquote encrypted via Bank of America or Chase's ledger? I don't know. I haven't done enough research to understand the potential of quantum, but we're going to have to see how it ultimately plays out. It was pretty bullish, though, to see Sundar say, like, he thinks it's real and he thinks it's coming. The question is, will the commercial applications be revenue generating over the coming years? Gold still up after hours, not slowing down, 43.50. Again, the rally in gold has been just unbelievable, but this one continues to go higher. I asked in the morning, do people think gold is a bubble? And I mean, most people said no, but they definitely wouldn't buy gold right here. Take a look at this chart from Bank of America. The 4-week moving average of inflows into gold and silver hit 7.5 billion, an all-time record. Over the last 10 weeks, gold funds have posted a whopping 34.2 billion in net inflows. That's 3.4 billion coming into gold and silver ETFs every week for the past 10 weeks. And people are really not seeing Bitcoin as digital gold. They're seeing gold as the real gold. And I don't know if that's super bullish Bitcoin or super bearish gold, or if it's super bullish gold and super bullish Bitcoin as well. I mean, like, or if it's bearish both. If both can't catch a bid, or one is catching a bid from euphoria, one just simply can't catch a bid because there's not enough liquidity. I mean, even if you look at the retail trends on like the search terms for Bitcoin on Google Trends, it's not even at 2017 levels. I mean, it's disgusting. Coinbase is not even in the top 200 apps in the App Store. So it really makes you wonder, what is going on? Where is retail? Why are they not excited? Look at this. How to buy Bitcoin. look at the interest. I mean, it's at freaking 10 on the overall scale. If we just type in Bitcoin in general, yeah, the interest is at 26, a little bit better, but like it's nowhere near 2021, nowhere near even March of 2024 when Bitcoin hit 70,000 for the first time. I don't think there's a retail rally happening in crypto until there's a catalyst, and I don't know what that catalyst is. And this is kind of why I'm liking BMNR a lot more than the Bitcoin derivative plays. I think there is a legitimate catalyst for Ethereum, and that catalyst is the use case around stablecoins and tokenization. With Bitcoin, the catalyst has always been store of value. But if people are thinking of gold as their store of value over Bitcoin, at least right now in the moment, you don't have that massive catalyst to get retail super energized. And maybe that's just going to take more time. But if this thing's going to 200,000 by end of year, you got 2 months left to see if that catalyst ends up playing out. So that's what we got on crypto. Maybe they're asking ChatGPT. Yeah, ChatGPT could definitely be taking some of that traffic, but for it to be that depressed on Google Trends is weird, right? Like you would expect more retail to be. It's a bull market, and rates are coming down, and like retail is not searching about Bitcoin, which is actually not that good for Robinhood, dude. Robinhood makes a lot of money off crypto transactions, and if retail's not that interested in Bitcoin, you might not have a lot of crypto volumes going into Q3, Q4 earnings, which is not the best thing for Hood, not the best thing for Webull. So it's one of those things that we have to see what turns out to be that catalyst that potentially the biggest catalyst is if Bitcoin just goes up. If it gets back to 120, 130, 140, you're going to have a lot of people that start buying. But until then, it might be very flat. Do Ethereum? Yeah, that's a good question. I should do Ethereum. So Bitcoin's at what, 26 right now? Let's see, Ethereum's worse at 13. How to buy Ethereum. Let's do BMNR next. Dude, how to buy Ethereum's at 2. No one cares about Ethereum. Okay, what about BMNR? BMNR's at 37. BMNR is 3 times higher in search volume than freaking Ethereum. That is hilarious, bro. No one gives a shit about ETH. They just care about Bitmine, which ironically started off as a Bitcoin miner. And then Chainlink's at 20. Chainlink's higher than Ethereum. Chainlink's at 21. Ethereum's at 13. How to buy Chainlink. Buying it's basically at 0, but at least the term is getting a lot more excitement than Ethereum itself. What about XRP? XRP is higher than Ethereum as well, 23. Now, again, just being higher doesn't translate into outperformance, but it goes to show across the board the fact that these numbers are not above 50 on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, etc. just means retail is not that excited. Solana's at 34. They're not that excited about crypto right now. They're just not. Do Fartcoin. Dude, if Fartcoin is higher than Ethereum, okay, it's at 5. It's lower than Ethereum, but imagine if it was higher. Yeah, people just don't care that much. At least not right now. Yo, what about gold? Yeah, let me do gold. Gold's got to be above 50. 82. This is the last time it got up here was in 2024 April. That's when the Israel-Iran conflict was breaking out. You guys remember S&P was at 492. Sorry, this is August. This is yen carry trade. But it did spike a little bit in April as well. What about how to buy gold? So we haven't seen gold at these levels since August 2024. How to buy gold. Dude, 2 weeks ago. Is this 2 weeks ago? No, 3 months ago, it was at 100. Now it's at 67. That is significantly higher. That is 5 times higher than Bitcoin. Or sorry, 5 times higher than Ethereum and 2 times higher than Bitcoin. Maybe the bubble's in gold. Maybe it's not big. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't freaking know. But it is quite incredible to see retail knock. And again, this isn't bearish Bitcoin, Ethereum, or anything like that. I really want those assets to go up because I've got a lot of names that are associated with those assets. The broader market tends to do better when you have risk on assets like that go up. I am just perplexed by the fact that we're in a raging bull and retail doesn't care about crypto. Which, I don't know what changes that outside of price performance, but you might need institutional guys to get more excited about the price to get it to go higher. S&P 500 after hours up a little bit more, 672 on the S&P is what we've got right now. I don't know about bubble when central banks are buying all the gold. So that is a fair point. However, we were listening to this clip last night, and Josh Brown made a good point about when the central banks were buying gold like crazy back in 2009 because of the Great Recession. What popped the gold bubble that didn't end up recovering for the next 5 years was central banks selling a ton of gold. And the reason they sold a ton of gold was because there was a recession and they needed massive liquidity. And gold became the easiest way to get that liquidity. Now, if we don't get a recession, maybe that's not that much of a concern. But central banks in and of themselves being bullish on it, who knows if that's the linchpin on why gold continues to persist the way it does.
European sovereigns, Asians, or they all so like you.
But how does that change if it's a tier one asset now on their balance sheet? It is as good as cash.
Yes, but if you need the money, you need the money.
Yeah.
The other thing that could end it is if people get too excited about gold.
Yeah.
Like big leverage coming in on the long side. I don't know. Philip probably has like better guesses than I do, but like it eventually does end, but it doesn't have to end for 10 years. Like there's no.
It could be a big cycle here right now.
It could be a big deal, right?
It definitely. And I think what could end it, I mean, there could obviously be a number of things. And you look back, even COVID, and I remember that it was like the first week of March, whenever that Monday coming out of the oil, Saudi Arabia and Russia oil news, and oil's down $10. Gold made a high that morning, but then within weeks and the COVID shutdowns, it was, I think, $300. I think it was 1,700 to 1,400. And so gold really sniffs out inflation, and it doesn't make, and may not react how you would expect during the inflation. Like in 2022, Fed's hiking rates, the dollar is strengthening, gold was whacked, but it smells inflation. So it's going to see it, and it's going to react prior to the inflation. So I would say what we're seeing right now potentially could be more inflation, but then you're also getting the GDPs of Germany and Japan and things like that. That's why the dollar is actually rising. And over this last couple of weeks, when gold's been breaking out, which is a pretty interesting phenomenon.
That's rare.
Yeah.
While the 10-year continues to go down below 4%. I mean, we really have not seen something like this in history before. By the way, AI bubble, that's at 100. That's crazy, bro. AI bubble on Google search trends is at 100, at least for the last month. And Bitcoin, Ethereum, more, dude, if this is not a bottom okay, let me read it. It's not a bottom indicator, but it's at least not a top signal. The AI bubble is at the top of people's Google search results over how to buy Bitcoin. I think this is super bullish. You have more people that are worried we're in a bubble than people that are euphorically worried about how to set up a Binance account to get access to crypto. Like, have we topped before with people typing in the term bubble at an all-time high? No, you top when people are feverishly searching for how to get exposure because their neighbor is getting rich off Bitcoin. Like, I don't see this as bearish. I actually see this as counterintuitively bullish. It's just, for the assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, they're not making those big moves people want to make. But maybe that's because you need them to take their time to make the move, especially as liquidity is getting sucked into gold and silver and commodities. And then the sentiment around the broader consensus is that we're in a bubble based on these search terms. That to me signals that more people are scared, which is what you need. Are we in a bubble? Wow, look at that. 69 on the search results over the past 5 years. That is the second highest it's been since 2022. I mean, that's pretty incredible. AI CapEx, that is at 21. It was up a little bit last week as a search term, but that bubble term, what about just bubble in general? Yeah, it's at 55, relatively consistent. It's quite incredible to see the psyche of how this is playing out. But again, I think with good earnings, with rates coming down, and with more people being worried about an AI bubble than worried about buying Bitcoin, it's hard to say that it's super, super bubbly, which is not too bad. I think MicroStrategy lost momentum. MicroStrategy lost momentum because Bitcoin lost momentum. And until Bitcoin regains momentum, a lot of these derivative plays are going to get hit. Now the question is, does MicroStrategy, take a 250 or below beating? That's when it really gets hit, or does it chill out just below 300? Search for bubble gum. What about gold bubble? Yeah, let me type in gold bubble. That's getting up there, 64 on gold bubble. That's the highest in about a year and a half, or that's the highest in 4 months, the second highest in 3 years. Crypto bubble. What about that? 13. Dude, no one's even searching for a crypto bubble because Bitcoin's not running like crazy enough to make you afraid about that. I mean, like, there's not that many people that care about the state of crypto right now, which I think is actually bullish, because eventually they will. And when they do, that should help out a lot of these currencies. Do you still like Robinhood? Yes, I like Robinhood, even though everyone is shitting on Robinhood today. It is what it is. I think they will get through it. I think they'll be okay. And the fact that the stock was up today just goes to show how much the algorithms didn't really care about the sentiment on Hood. They just cared about going higher. As the S&P breaks out to all-time highs, which it almost got to today, you're going to have Hood, which is a proxy in the bull market, go a bit higher. And that's why that stock was up 5%. All right, I think we are done for the day, folks. I will be back tomorrow. Actually, hold on. We got to search quantum. We didn't even search freaking quantum, Google Trends. Let's do that. There's not going to be a daily recap today because I'm about to leave to where am I going to? To my parents' house for Diwali. Happy Diwali to those who celebrate. So we are not going to have a daily recap today, but we will be back tomorrow. And we'll recap everything that we had. Quantum. Okay, so quantum had a massive spike back in April 2025, and now it's back down to 0. Quantum stocks. You're seeing a little bit more elevated excitement than usual. You have 40, 22, 23. You're basically at 0. So it's definitely trending more, but it's not like 100. It's not in the 70s and 80s like we saw with how to buy gold. They do have some people that are excited. What about Nvidia? We got to search Nvidia. Nvidia is also relatively relaxed. 28 on Nvidia, not too crazy. How's all that compared to Taylor Swift? That's a good question. Well, she just released an album, so that one should really be moving. Okay, it's in the 20s, not as high as Nvidia. All right, cool. That's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow. Thank everybody for being here. Happy Diwali to those who celebrate it. I am going to go home to family. I'll be back tomorrow on the market open. Again, there's not going to be a daily recap today, and I'm not doing Tech Bros. I don't know if Tanner and Roy are doing it. They might. I told them last week. I think they still might do it. If they don't do it, then we'll be back next Monday. But if they do it, then it'll be on one of their channels. And we'll be back tomorrow. Technical Tuesday tomorrow. Tesla earnings is on Wednesday. So we'll have Jason tomorrow, and then we'll have Tesla Wednesday, Netflix Thursday, and then we'll keep going from there. And that's what we got. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Happy Diwali to those who celebrate it. I will be back tomorrow morning. And I think the summary of today is China de-escalation, rates coming down, 10-year below 4%, S&P very close to all-time highs with a lot of the frothy names down on the day. Is a nice setup going into earnings. And based on Trump's comments on China, if we get a good negotiation over the next 2 weeks, we might be able to really get some momentum here. So that's what we got. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the market open. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.